you know, these benchmarks, use that word again, are in place. So they're monitored. If one of the student athletes is underperforming in one of their classes, their professors will reach out to the athletic program. And then in turn, the athletic program administration will reach out to me, and then we'll collaborate on how we can resolve this individual's problem. Maybe because the problem isn't necessarily academic, it might not also be the football. It could just be something having a problem at home. They're just children at the end of the day. A lot of them do, some of them are from nearby areas, some are travel. We have a bunch of internationals. We have a girl coming in from California, New Mexico next year. So, they're going to be away from home. They're going to have different challenges. And, as coaches, administrators, or whoever we are, that's what we're tasked with, is making this process for them as easy as possible, but at the same time, making them accountable for their experience as well. So we can't do everything for them. But, we shouldn't be doing nothing for them either. There's, I think, the balance in the middle somewhere.
Welcome back here on Sandy Bay Media for another episode. I'm joined by Aris over at Felician University over in America, and we're going to have a chat to him about the program and get to know a little bit about Felician, as we'll be following them throughout the course of 2022. Next week, we'll have some of the players on to talk about it. But today, we've got Aris. Welcome, mate.
Welcome, Rohit. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's fantastic to have you on. Look, we were having a chat just a little bit before about how you took the women's side and sort of how you got involved in Felician, and that was an excellent story. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, sure. It was the 2015 season. I was hired as the men's assistant coach, specializing in goalkeeper development and recruiting out of New York City's junior colleges. I spent about 5 years, better part of 5 seasons with the men's program. Until about the end of the 2019 season, when the coach stepped down for personal family reasons on the women's side. And being that I was kind of helping out as a volunteer basis with the women's goalkeepers as well, the hierarchy, the administration here brought me in and asked me to kind of steward the women's program through the remaining 5 games of the 2019 season, which I did. And then upon the completion of this season, I was just retained as the interim manager, because obviously they were going to do a bigger search, I believe, and they were looking to interview other candidates. And then, however, COVID hit, which put everything on a back burner and left me in charge in a sense. So I was then tasked with just basically, we weren't playing any football at the time, just basically to make sure the girls' academics were in order, that they had all the resources they needed to kind of take care of that part of their their journey at Felician. And we were able to do so with a high GPA. And in that time, obviously developed a little bit of a relationship with some of the players, and the players did so with me. And we both took a mutual liking to each other, me to the group to myself. And basically they offered me the job without an interview process. So obviously I took it, and very fortunate and very blessed to be able to do what I love for a living, in a sense, and close to home as well.
No, that's brilliant to hear that. And it's and one of the things you were telling me about also was sort of the philosophy, more or less, what sort of the coaching means to you. And I think that was quite interesting.
Yeah. So, I truly believe that, we're a lot of times, like, some different coaches have different viewpoints on, their role and their task and where they're perceived as. And, some make it about themselves, some make it just about winning. My philosophy, especially at where we are on the D2 level, is try to maximize their student athlete experience. So make these 4 years as enjoyable as they can for themselves. And, not losing sight of why they're here. So they're here primarily to get an education. Soccer is a byproduct of that. Soccer is a way for them to actually, get into school, maybe potentially earn a scholarship to help pay for them school. But the main priority here is to leave with a degree, and that is pretty much what they're going to be professionally. Only a certain 1%, even probably less than 1%, are able to play for as an occupation, play soccer as an occupation. So we cannot lose sight of, they have to leave here prepared for the business world or whatever world they decide to enter.
No, that's a great outlook and a viewpoint on, so it's fantastic to see that. And obviously, the pressures of being a professional, being almost a professional athlete, but also studying does get quite intense. How is that one of the things that you manage and the program at Felician?
Yeah, so we have benchmarks in place for that. So anyone with any incoming freshman, so a new player, as an 18-year-old that joins the program, they're mandatory to do a certain amount of study hall hours every week, which are monitored and documented. So, they can't escape it. We kind of force them to actually study. And so you can't escape it. Anyone with under a 3.0 GPA, regardless of where you are as a freshman, sophomore, and in your age, you're also required to participate. So if you're not excelling, not just, I wouldn't say status quo, you have to be excelling. If you're not excelling, we have benchmarks in place to at least get you to that 3.0 level, which is a B mark. I don't know how it's like translated in other countries, but it's a fairly high mark. So if you have a 3.0, you're doing fairly well. So with that said, these benchmarks, use that word again, are in place. So they're monitored. If one of the student athletes is underperforming in one of their classes, their professors will reach out to the athletic program. And then in turn, the athletic program administration will reach out to me, and then we'll collaborate on how we can resolve this individual's problem. Maybe because the problem isn't necessarily academic, it might not necessarily be the football. It could just be something having a problem at home. They're children at the end of the day. A lot of them do, some of them are from nearby areas. Some are travel. We have a bunch of internationals. We have a girl coming in from California, New Mexico next year. So, they're going to be away from home. They're going to have different challenges. And, as coaches, administrators, or whoever we are, that's what we're tasked with, is making this process for them as easy as possible, but at the same time, making them accountable for their experience as well. So we can't do everything for them, but, we shouldn't be doing nothing for them either. There's, I think, the balance in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, since what I'm hearing, it's very much, it's a well-being program, so it ensures that they've got that
very holistic, Rohit. Exactly. Yeah. That's my belief.
I was gonna say, very much a holistic approach, as you mentioned, but it's not hand-holding either.
No, because they're at the end of the day, they're adults now, and if you're holding their hand, what service are you doing for them when they graduate? 22-year-olds entering the real world, we call it. We have a bunch of nurses on our team, so that is not an occupation where you can make a mistake. You can make a mistake, I can make a mistake, it's fine. Nurses, they can't make mistakes. So, that they have to realize that pressure and that accountability. That you can't say my bad and just move on. That is not acceptable in your line of work. But you chose that work, so you have to deal with that, the repercussions and of all of that.
Exactly, and it's like, as you mentioned, like, it's the real world, and nursing is one of those industries that's very high pressure. I mean, any job these days is extremely high pressure. So, we could go all day into that. But what I wanted to have a look was the footballing side. So obviously, we've looked at the education and the support they receive outside of the playing. But in terms of footballing, I think the first time we spoke, you were telling me a lot of things, sort of the different rules the NCAA had, and I was like, wow, okay. I wasn't expecting that. So my question is, just give us a bit of a look of how a player comes into your system and how they progress throughout the entire year.
Yeah, so the progression, I wouldn't say it's just necessarily the year. I think we have to look at it from the 4-year window, because we technically do have them for 4 years. And when you look at it, especially with recruiting, because you're going to look at, the people you bring in are generally 17-year-olds. You might have the junior college transfer, which, that's a whole nother aspect of the pyramid of college soccer or college athletics in the United States. But generally, you're bringing in a high school senior, so a 17-year-old, and you're looking at their technical ability for the most part, and just kind of like their whole mental makeup, because the physicality of a 17-year-old girl is not what a 22-year-old woman is going to look like. So you might say, this player isn't strong enough on the ball. That necessarily isn't a detriment. That's just something that is going to be attained through, just time and, just maturation process. So, we try to bring in girls that have the technical ability, as well as some sort of a soccer IQ, like the decision making. What decisions you make when you're on the ball? Are you composed? Are you just, the second you're under pressure, you're just, booting the ball down the field, kind of in that aspect? Or are you composed and you're just trying to find a teammate? So obviously, I think every coach would prefer the person who has calm, technical ability. So we're all looking for the same player in a sense. And then obviously, the development that you spoke of is trying to minimize their mistakes, and by doing that, you're trying to, increase their soccer ability, their decision making, and then in time the physicality improves through the help of like most schools that have a strength and conditioning program as well. So they'll come in, they'll play their football. Coaches like myself will try to increase their football knowledge through situational training, and then in the springtime where we are now, they basically they work on their physical aspect because we're very limited in how we play games. So the football calendar in America isn't necessarily like it is in the rest of the world, where you're playing, a first half of your season and a second half of your season.
Yep.
You're just basically, it's all condensed in the fall, and your spring is basically for player and team development.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where we're at now in our, the physical calendar, being that it's March, April. Now we're just trying to develop the player individually. So when we do get to August, September, they're ready for competition, basically.
No. That sounds it's very different, as you mentioned, to how the rest of the world does it. So
yeah,
do you think that gives players enough time to develop or really focus on development? Especially, I think other players that you're having there and the senior end of competition, if they were in Europe or in Australia or Asia, they'd be playing matches consistently throughout the year. But over there, as you said, it's that last towards the final quarter of the year, it's the matches. So looking at throughout the entire year, that time that it gives to players to develop, do you think that's beneficial or?
Great question. I think it's a fantastic question. One I actually never examined until you actually asked it. But I do believe that, I think, to answer that question honestly, I think it's a detriment to the better players, but an asset to the weaker players.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, being that there is no pressure or stress now in these times. So like we will play scrimmages versus other universities. They don't count. Well, we won't even have linesmen in some instances, or myself and the other coach will say, hey, just from a developmental perspective, since we are, the scoreboard doesn't count in this instance, would you like to play 3:30s instead of 2:45s? And we have that flexibility. So with that said, my all-star player, stud player, whatever you want to call her, she needs to play every day. She needs to get better. That's what's going to make her better. But if I was in that mind frame, I would be only playing her because I need to win games and I want to only play my studs.
Yeah.
So now that there is no pressure on me as a coach or pressure on a program, the result of this game that's going to be played in 2-3 weeks is not going on it's not on the internet. It's not anywhere to be found.
Yeah.
I'd be more likely to play somebody who needs the minutes to develop, extended minutes, because I don't care about the result. If we lose 2-1 or win 2-1, irrelevant to me.
Correct.
I'm just looking at more of how we played. Did our systems of play come out? Were we able to give extended minutes to one of the players that are on the lower end of the roster, so that we could see how they actually perform in a game environment, which we would not do if the game actually mattered. So it benefits her, but it's a detriment to the other one. So I think, I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
but
it totally does. It's a give and take. It's and it's interesting because I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and we're having the exact same conversation around mentality. So sort of like, if a player isn't being pushed to do anything, they're not stepping out of the comfort zone, and it's very much they become relaxed and become complacent very quickly, and they're not developing as much.
Yeah. And I think that was the case even, years back when I was in school. The people that were already known to be starters almost took the spring off, whereas the players that were on the bench took the spring as, this is my chance to impress coach, because I wasn't getting the opportunity when the games mattered. So this is my one chance to really kind of make an impression, and hopefully that resonates. And then couple that with a strong off season, and then when you come back in August, maybe you can change coach's opinion of yourself, or just show coach how dedicated you were in your off-season workout to potentially earn extra minutes when the games do matter. So I really, like I said, it really kind of goes back. It's benefits. It's a give and take, really.
It's give and
take.
Really,
who you are, that that pyramid of players. The totem pole of players. I'm sorry.
No, it's completely makes sense, and I think, but it sounds like it's very much give and take on situations.
Yeah, I would think that's probably the best way of answering that.
Well, look, thank you for joining us and having a chat about yourself, about Felician, and the philosophy behind the program, both on and off the field. It definitely is an exciting program that we're looking to dig a bit deeper over the next couple of months, and then obviously as the year continues. Well, once again, thank you, Aris, for joining us, and we'll look forward to having you back on in the next couple of weeks and talking to some of the players.
Oh, thank you so much, Wahid. It was a pleasure of mine.